crank that out a lot. Fine. 5:02.
Okay, welcome everyone to the Finance Human Resources Committee. It's November 30th at 5:02, and I am here. My name is Katie Lafarishu. Dave Risberger will be joining us a little bit later. Scott Harrington, are you here?
Yes.
And Olivia, are you here? Excellent. Is everyone okay with the minutes that went out?
Yeah.
Yes, great. We'll move those by acclamation. OPT System Safety Plan, our first topic.
So this is a document that's required to be submitted, approved by the council and submitted to our New York State DOT representatives every so often when it's updated, which is biannually.
Okay.
These updates include any changes in staff numbers, position titles. It's required to provide the last 2 years ridership numbers. It's required again from the New York State DOT and the Public Transportation Safety Board.
Okay.
It's reviewed by them for compliance.
Okay.
Goes into our, compliance, making us eligible to receive STOA funding and for continued operation.
Okay, very important.
So,
Excuse me. Were there any changes made this year to the plan?
nothing major, just minor updates like this. That I shared.
Okay. I don't know that I got those. Did you send them via email?
We said this was sent out today for system safety plan. It's a doc, Word doc, or I think I put it in PDF. It might be attached to the meeting invite.
Now there are 4. Yep, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't get a chance to read that. Didn't know it was there.
Well, I have it.
Okay. Just take a quick look at that. So changes are highlighted.
No, I don't see any highlights on this. This is provided by Dave Cote. Once again, it's unfortunately to drive a bus, but
That's okay.
again, you didn't mention any specific changes. There's an update in the number of ridership numbers under section 4.
Okay.
That probably forgot all its change out of there. Changes in number of drivers.
Okay. And so council needs to adopt this one?
Yeah.
Okay. Did anyone get a chance to read this today?
No, and I think they should give it back to us with highlighted sections of what was changed from previous years.
Okay. Yeah, I would support that.
This is,
Sorry.
I got it in the email, with timestamp 12:51, but it didn't get to me by 3 o'clock this afternoon. This is the first I had to look at it.
Yeah, okay, same. I didn't realize that there was an additional document in the invitation, so I know you said additional documents to follow, but, yeah, this is the first I'm seeing it too, so I think before we move on it, we should, be made aware of what the changes are.
Is there anything excuse me.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Is there anything time sensitive?
I believe by the end of the year,
Okay.
I don't know if there's a specific date.
Okay. Our next finance meeting is the 14th, and then we have a council meeting on the 19th.
Alternatively, we can put it on the council discussion with the changes consideration.
That'll be fine with me.
Bring it back here, then it can go up. If they're gonna get documents late like this, we've asked before many a times to have this stuff earlier. last minute.
Okay, Ed, what are your thoughts?
I'd like to have a chance to look at it, and
Okay,
we've got two, common council meetings before the end of the year, right?
Mhm.
So there's time for us to look at it and then,
Yeah.
and still lay it, right?
yeah, it doesn't have to be late because it's not a local law, so we can approve it on
Oh,
Thursday.
right.
And it could be on the agenda on Tuesday. Okay, all right, so yeah, so then I guess if there's a consensus, we'll request that this is brought back with the changes from the previous one. And then with the plan to have it on the council agenda on the, I think it's the 19th. No, I'm
Yeah.
thinking of November 19th. Okay, yeah, because our next meeting is the 14th.
It looks like somebody has looked at it and certified it, is that right? Or there's something at the end of this,
Dave Hotel.
oh, properly distributed.
On the 27th. Oh, I see, yeah, there's a whole note right there on the safety plan, but I didn't look at any of these. Okay. Okay, sounds good, thank you.
So it's
All right.
had multiple sets of eyes on it, right, Greg?
Right.
Okay,
I'm
so-
sure it's good, but I just feel like we as a committee should have time to look at it.
Yeah, I like to know what I'm voting on before I vote. Okay, so we'll bring that one back. Topic B, our fave, OFD rescue engine replacement with Quint.
Go ahead.
Chief and I met with a leasing company today that gave us some financing options on the purchase of the new Quint. And we also, the representative from Pierce, which is the company that will buy the fire truck, was also on the call. It is options to consider. The interest rates were very high, so I really am not looking to agree to those type of interest rates. So they are going to be putting the specs together, which I'll let Chief expand on, to give us more definite numbers as far as what the cost will be. They'll also provide prepayment discount amounts to let us know how much money we would maybe be able to potentially save if we were to prepay for the truck. And do I segue into the grant? Is that another option? Is that another item?
No, it's,
Okay, so also going along with that, the chief and Judy are looking into another grant option for the truck, which also provides low interest financing. And we do qualify as far as our population and things like that. So that's going to be another option that we'll be bringing forward when we get more information on it.
Okay.
Chief, is there anything that you would like to add?
Last week, we changed the spec. I had a private conversation with you in an attempt to get the price down even further. So because of that, it's a change in the chassis. So that was a big change. We went with a smaller chassis. So because of that, he has to redo the entire spec because of a lot of things are changing. So talking about the prepayment portion of it, you could prepay for the entire truck, you can prepay just the chassis, there's different options along to consider with that as well. So, but I'm hoping next week that we'll have a final drawing and the options on it, the price, and then they'll be able to give us all the options for how much a prepayment would decrease the cost of the truck.
That sounds great. And I'm sorry, did you say what the interest rate was? That was,
Well, what they presented to us today was 6.7 to 6.4, it was around there. I talked to bond counsel yesterday, obviously for one of our topics that we're gonna be discussing tonight, and right now the rates are around 4.5,
okay,
which is very normal. You know, things are starting to get back into the normal range, and I did talk to him about having a separate bond resolution when we do decide on what we're going to do with the fire truck. If we decide not to pay cash for it out of our reserves, and want to do financing, we will need a bond resolution no matter which way we finance, either through the leasing company, through a bond issuance itself, or through the low financing grant opportunity.
Okay,
So we would be bringing a separate motion for that.
okay, sounds good. Judy, could you tell us just a little bit about the grant?
Yeah, we're looking at the USDA Urban Development Community Facilities Grant Loan Program.
Okay,
They offer a very small amount of grant. They say we're eligible for up to 35%,
okay,
but it's likely gonna be 100 or less, I would say.
okay,
The money's not budgeted yet in the federal budget. That's supposed to happen in January. Right now, the interest rates are quarterly, they come out quarterly, and the current interest rate is 3.875%.
okay,
We'll know more, we're gonna be setting up a Zoom to talk to the staff at RD next week. And we may not know a lot until January,
okay,
and until we actually get a pre-application there. So the process is you submit a pre-application, they review it, and then if they're interested in it, they'll request that you submit an application.
okay,
The one thing about it, which is, I think, a drawback on this funding, timing-wise, and it depends on our timing too, but we can't order the Quint until we have an award.
oh,
So
okay,
that could delay things.
Yeah.
So in that case, it might pay, and we'll talk about this more internally, but it might pay to look at other things that the fire department might want to be purchasing in 2024 and apply for those instead of this. So this could move forward, but hopefully it would be a similar net outcome.
cool,
But we'll look at all of that.
okay,
Just want to remind our goal is to get this done before the first of the year, before we change councils.
yeah,
So
I mean.
be careful with changes, be careful with stuff that's gonna set it back, because we only got a few more meetings.
Yeah, do you think that's a realistic, obviously not with the grant, but, I mean, we're looking at maybe just having the information at our 12-14 meeting.
Well, what we could do possibly, as I said, you're gonna have the bond resolution no matter how you decide to finance it.
Okay,
Second of all, you can always approve the purchase of the Quint to not exceed a certain dollar amount.
oh, that's
Does
a
not,
great idea.
does not mean that we have to place the order at that time.
Okay,
That way the financing will be in place and then the authorization for the purchase will be in place.
okay,
So it doesn't mean that it has to be ordered by 12/31, it just means the authorizations have to be set.
yeah, okay, so maybe that's something maybe we just wanna move forward with that kind of anyway. I mean, do you know what the ballpark is, or should we wait until we get the numbers back?
I would wait until we get the numbers back.
Yeah, okay, so then we'll also plan to have that on the 12-19 agenda, the bond resolution and the not to exceed authorization. Cool, great, we're moving forward. Great, thank you for all your work on that, and thank you, Judy, for coming up with magic.
Brian called me yesterday about it.
Oh, for real? Okay, nice. Okay. The capital improvement plan. A fave. Oh, I'm so excited. Okay. Please take it away.
So as you know, we update our capital improvement plan continuously, but we adopt this or attach this to our adopted budget every year. And that's what's shared with our auditors, with bond counsel and other agencies. It's a snapshot in time. It shows what we're looking to do. What I've done this year, we've included, the first page and really the first 2 pages. You see there's on the left column, there's a start year, and then there's a finish year. Previous iterations of the capital improvement plan only showed 1 year. This is more accurate in just conveying that capital projects, many of them span over multiple years. And when they're funded is maybe in any one of those years, and it's not necessarily in the year that was shown previously. So this gives you a better idea of the total time frame over which these projects are expected to be worked on and completed. The funding, as you move over to the right, you've got the annual column, which is indicating if there's something included in the annual budget. So when you look at, start year, finish year, it might be any one of those years. So this document isn't intended to tie directly to the 2024 tentative budget. We're not necessarily gonna, it's not that easy to compare it. You will see some projects that are funded in the 2024 budget that are represented here.
Okay.
Again, going back to funding, look at reserve. Typically, in the notes column, if there's some dollar amount in the reserve column, you look at the notes column, it'll explain what reserve that's coming from. In the debt column, that's obviously if we have a loan, something like a low interest loan, 0% loan that we have for the water treatment plant would be shown there, any bond issuance or anticipated issuance we've shown there. The grant / other column is just that. There's a grant or some other outside funding, partnership with the town of Boniana on like that Complete Streets project for the Highway and South Side that shown there. So I showed the previous years, as you start year 2020 through 2024 for this general airport fuel farm replacement. So that's 2020 is when it was initiated, it became a project we were working on, design phase, and we're thinking that could potentially be constructed in 2024. I'm showing projects that are still ongoing on these first couple of pages.
Okay.
But I send you to the third page and you see a start year of 2024, that's where what we call the 5-year capital improvement plan will begin, since 2024 through 2028.
Okay. Page 3.
Yeah.
Great.
And, the color coding is there, obviously by fund category, so general fund, airport, general fund, parking, general fund, parks and rec, et cetera, sewer fund, collection, water fund distribution.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't realize we had a grant for the yard waste gate.
Yeah, we were able to, DEC approved us using the remaining money in that grant to do that work. That's the composting grant,
Okay,
so they're allowing us to do that.
that's
So
awesome.
we're just waiting on a contract extension for that, or grant extension. Should be able to be completed next year.
Cool.
So in that line, the green, bold, 60,000, the reason that's green and bold is because that is funding that has been not only identified or anticipated, but it's actually been secured in some way. Whether it's, in that case, it's a grant we have. Just above that, Parks and Rec, the Wilbur Pool and New parking lot paving, $45,000 under the annual column. That indicates that's included in a budget that's been approved. Now, I'm anticipating that because it's in the 2024 tentative budget, but that is something that will have been approved.
Okay.
Whereas if you look above that, $35,000 for P1 Wilbur playground improvements, we're showing that could come from the Appleball Reserve. That's a reserve that we have that has a balance in it that money can be spent on things in the parks that are not sports related, generally speaking, Jimmy. So given that playground improvements was something that was on our list of projects we'd like to accomplish with our ARPA funds, but it's not on the list that is going to be able to be funded by ARPA, we thought that might be a good use for that. And I think I'm not sure the balance off the top of my head, but there's money in that fund for that.
Can I ask a follow-up question? Would art in the park qualify for that reserve funding?
Well, it is for park beautification and maintenance, so that may be a possibility. Cool, but let me confirm it first.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for looking into that. Because that was one thing with public art that I was really hoping to accomplish, was to get more art in the park and exactly as you put it, non-sports related things, to make our parks more like oriented and stuff like that. So I appreciate you looking into that. Thank you. Okay, sorry to veer.
No, it's okay. So that generally explains how to read the document. Did you want me to go through any particular, I think that the Quality of Life Committee kind of read through the projects being started in 2024, since
Okay.
it's most immediate. Everything else prior to that projects that are already ongoing, we can touch on those, we can do whatever we want, we can go through every one.
Okay.
But just,
Well, since we
don't
have,
waste all your time.
you're at least on the quality of life committee, Scott, or Ed, are you also? Do you wanna sum up kind of the thoughts of that committee on this discussion?
Really, the only thoughts we had, and correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, is we thought it was important to go through 2024, and there were questions on what funds were committed and which ones had not been committed. So that's why we have the bold figures here and the ones in green.
Okay, yeah,
So-
that's,
But that was about it. We didn't read through, I don't believe we read through the rest of it, because we didn't see the need to.
okay. Yeah, I think just taking a look at some of the funds that have been committed, I don't know that you need to like read them aloud, but maybe we could have a period of awkward silence and see if we have any questions or anything.
That's fine.
Okay, cool. Actually, I have a question that might fill the silence while we're looking at things. The Asa Allison building needs assessment, is that complete?
That is pretty much complete, and Judy, I'm looking over at you. I think we're gonna have a presentation on the Armory, Asa Allison building needs assessment. There's gonna be some discussion that needs to happen with the council as to where we go from that, and that's the building conditions assessment really, like, what do we try to do with the building? We had a survey with some input from the public, so now we need to talk about the next steps going forward. So I think we'll probably have our consultant do a little presentation on their report.
Cool.
Probably after the first of the year at this point, unless we want to do that right away.
I'm mostly just eager to learn about it, you know?
I think it'll have to be after the first of the year with her schedule.
Sure.
Wherever you get in December.
Yeah, well, and any changes that will be made or decisions about going forward with the building will be made by the next council, so it'd be helpful, I think, to have them have the full picture. Okay, same question, the thermal loop study?
Yeah, same answer.
Okay.
That's just about wrapping up. We have a call coming up with our consultant on that, but the scoping study should be done. We'll be able to have a presentation on that, and that's why under page 3 at the top, we have district thermal exchange system design, so that would be the next phase if we're gonna go forward with another phase. There's a TBD shown as a grant other column, thinking that, you know, this is a project that NYSERDA is very interested in. If it's something that the scoping study shows is valuable to explore further, do some more detailed design, then I think we might be seeing more money coming toward that. So depending on how that goes, there could be another phase to this. So I wanted to show it even though we don't have an application that's in right now or a dollar amount assigned to it.
Yeah.
It's just something that we know is kind of out there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's another one that's probably going to be a presentation. It probably makes sense to do it after the first year to get everyone else up to speed too.
Right, okay. So for the last two on the first page, there's no money that has been committed. Where are we on those projects in terms of committing funding?
Tuesday, it's on the agenda tonight.
Okay,
Those are all the different aspects of the Market Street Transportation Improvements Project. The reason they're shown as not committed is the council hasn't issued a bond authorization. So under the debt column, if you're looking at general parking, 47 Market Street, transit hub and site improvements, and then the next one, general streets and sidewalks.
okay,
You see the green bold number above that, the enterprise fund, the $9,398,000 DOT FTA funding that has been awarded. So that's the
Okay.
difference with those.
okay. So we're gonna talk about these two later on in the agenda. Okay, then I'll reserve my questions until then. Does anybody else have any questions? I'm not rushing us, I just don't wanna hog all the air.
The top of page 2, is there still more work to be done on Ann Street?
Yeah, River and Ann, that work will be completed in the spring of 2024. There's gonna be a winter shutdown. I believe all the water main work, Chris, is completed on River Street and Ann Street. There's just the milling, paving, and the surface work restoration that'll be done next year when the asphalt plant opens back up.
That's correct.
Same with River Street itself and the far end.
Be good to get that building paid, don't it?
Feel like I'm out of book.
Yeah,
Wait until the shocks are bad in the one car.
oh, yeah, somebody told me I would miss send a bill to the city, I was like, good.
Just wanna make sure you're awake when you drive to work.
There you go. Okay, could you speak to the communications study? I see that has been committed probably in the budget.
I know, like, right, talk about it.
Okay,
Where are we?
I'm sorry, page 2, in the middle of the general admin other block of orange. No, I'm sorry, the top of that block. Citywide communication studies about halfway down on the page
Oh, yeah.
for 30,000.
Got it.
Yeah, so this is related to our communications infrastructure. We had $30,000 in the budget. I believe we have that budget again next year. There hasn't been a whole lot expended this year, although Chief Wisenberg and Assistant Chief Foster, I believe chiefly, have been working on that project with a consultant, identifying ways. I think they've already made some improvements to our West End repeater that fixed some issues that we were having. They're also in conversations with Otsego County about how to have better interoperability. I think they're moving along without having to go to great expense. So so far we haven't had to, have an RFP sort of a situation.
Okay,
But there still is, gonna be some physical upgrades needed, so I think that's what that money will ultimately be spent on. I don't know, Chief, if you have anything to add to that.
okay, that's cool, thanks for.
So it's gonna be upgrades to what we already have?
Yeah, to our radios, I mean, Chief, you can talk better than I as far as our interoperability concerns with the different.
Yeah, basically, we want the city, if the fire department if we have a major emergency, the fire department can talk to the police department, can talk to DPW, and everyone can just talk radio to radio, and just for better interoperability. It would be nice to get the school on board. I know they just upgraded their system, so we're looking at compatibility that way, so.
Police department, I believe, can communicate with their radios with county sheriff's department now, can they?
They currently cannot.
That would be an issue that we're aiming to correct. OPT has issues communicating with connectivity when they, at a certain point on the way to Cooperstown, we'd like to try to alleviate all those issues. So.
On page 3, the first parking, so we're estimating that it'll cost about $500 million. Will that be parking or is that?
I think that'll cover it. I think it could be less than that.
Okay.
We had a Q&A last night, the mayor and I did that kind of came up, and, we're still working with a consultant that's developing what the technology is that we might want to implement. I think we'll go back with the parking strategies task force and talk with them, here's how this could work, and come back to council as we intended with a presentation as to this is what we would recommend.
Okay,
There's
and
kind
so
of,
much it will cost.
yeah, there's kind of a sky's the limit in how, what we can install, and maybe we don't need to go there. But it kind of depends on what type of system we're installing. So, not quite there yet, but I think based on the initial high-level estimates I saw, that's probably gonna cover it. And I would hope that it would come in less.
Okay,
To be finalized.
thank you.
We show that under reserve, and in the notes, it says 100,000 parking reserve, that's what's in there now, I believe. And I think we're talking about maybe adding to that, the other reserves later on in the agenda. But it shows the other 400 would come from fund balance. Obviously, with the understanding and expectation that installing paid parking would result in some revenue coming back over time for a couple of things such as paying for the system, so.
Right, okay.
Great.
I'm sorry.
I'm looking at the Muller Plaza and New Up Park performance stages. And I'm sure this question's probably been asked before, but I don't remember the answer. Is there a drop dead date on spending that ARPA money?
We have to have all the ARPA funds committed as far as contracts awarded for whatever work we're doing by the end of 2024. Those funds don't all need to be spent and documented as being spent and projects close out until the end of 2026. So we do
I
have
want to have it all done by then.
yeah, it'll be important to make sure that we stay on track with getting to a point where those funds are being committed this year, 2024.
And I'm sorry, you might not know this off the top of your head, but do you know what the balance of that funding is? At least, like after what we've committed?
Of all the ARPA funds, there's the 235, the 25, I can look that up.
It's not critical, I'm just trying to think about, you know, what we need to be looking at next year.
In quality of life, when we were discussing, we talked about a plan B of maybe pulling it to do some water projects if we can't make the date with the stage, or to see if we could maybe look at the Maskey Field with some improvements.
That was referenced to the stage though, in Neil
Yes,
Park,
the stage in
not
Neil Park,
Muller
yes.
Yes, not Muller Plaza, okay, good, that was gonna
Yeah,
clarify, like,
thanks,
I think we can get that
Yeah.
one.
Keep forgetting we got two stages.
So I think the idea for the stage going into Neowa Park is a much grander vision, more like SPAC or, and, I mean, there's the whole question of whether we can sustain something like that anyway, but, to pull that all together within a year is,
Yeah,
we weren't sure how that was gonna happen.
and have it built within the
Yeah.
next two, yeah, it might not work with the timeline.
Yeah, it's gonna be in the millions, not $100,000.
Cool, alright.
Yeah, I think with the money,
What's gonna be that grand,
Well, that's what was brought forward, that was the idea. We could always change that. The council can change that and do whatever they want. We just know that the mobile bandstand needs to be replaced.
Yeah.
It could also come down to, we buy another mobile bandstand.
That was another option.
Yeah.
So we had
Interesting.
a few options that we could go with if we had to. You know, 80, what we'd say, like 80, almost 80 to 90% of the ARPA funds were invested in the park like we wanted. 50% of the, and we got about, out of that, we got almost 80% of our projects done.
Yeah.
Some,
we've spent
but,
basically $445,000.
I was like,
Which leaves the 235 plus 33,000 roughly. We had budgeted in our 2024 budget, the $25,000 improvements to the skate park to come from the ARPA.
okay,
So that might be able to be increased a little bit depending on, how much we spend on the stage.
yeah,
The other thing that you should be aware of, we talked about yesterday was, for both of those bandstands, definitely the Muller Plaza one, but both of them, what was it, we've gotta get an RFP ready in the first quarter of next year.
okay,
Otherwise, if that's not done then, it's just gonna back us all up to the point where this is not gonna happen by the end of next year.
okay. Yeah, and we do have the list of things, like if we think that the stage the stage in Neowa isn't going to happen in a realistic way within the timeline, like we had sidewalk and curb improvements that we wanted to do in Neowa Park, like there are things that we could move on, you know? So I think we just need to look at that realistically.
Yeah, I think if the stage is something that the council wants to do, this period, then, trying to get the design done is a realistic goal.
Yeah,
I think Scott had mentioned it last meeting, can it be done, incorporated into Maskey Field?
that would be
That's
so
something
cool,
that could be looked at, for sure.
that would be so cool.
You've got all the amenities there, concessions, bathrooms,
Mhm.
the stage is
It's
set up
gated.
where the bandstand, or not the bandstand, the grandstand was, and then you have to have some sort of ability to have temporary or mobile seating to be put in. So there'd be complications, challenges with that, but again, if you had an RFP to hire an architect and engineer to look at that, it
Okay,
could be done in this year.
that would be cool. Okay, so how does that need to move forward if we were gonna do something like that? What's the best method?
Well, yeah, we'll go forward with an RFP. I don't think there is no council action required to do an RFP, then we'll just be awarding the contract.
Okay, can we put that on the discussion agenda? Maybe not for this Tuesday, well, it should be this council, so either this Tuesday or the next one.
We might do the next one, which will be about 45 items.
Okay, I was gonna say, I don't know what they look like, so.
all the engineer stuff.
Okay, cool. I think that would be great, I think we should discuss what we're gonna do with that, because Neowa does need a performance venue, and I think we should figure out what that looks like sooner rather than later. And if we can do an RFP and it's kind of a low commitment thing, then let's just keep moving forward, you know? Okay, and that's related to finance because we're gonna spend money on it, so, all right. Okay, any other questions on the capital improvement plan? Really, I just wanted to kind of, for me, I wanted to understand some of the money that had been committed, and other things, you know, I think we have time to talk that through as time goes on, so I don't wanna just like shelve this. But I don't know that we need to go over things that aren't going to start for a couple years, like tonight. Especially because our agenda goes all the way to Z. So is there anything else that anyone wants to talk about with the capital improvement plan before we move on? Okay, hearing nothing, let's move on to the next letter of the alphabet, which is D. New microenterprise program application. Cool.
Okay, so, we've submitted a pre-application for another microenterprise program. We've been invited in, to submit in full application. We'd be applying for $200,000. It'd be similar to how we've done it in the past, where $178,000 is available for grants, and the remaining 22 comes back to the city for our staff time to work on them.
Okay.
We'd like to go in with an authorizing resolution at the next council meeting so that we can submit the application. Once they invite you in, you're pretty much gonna get the grant, so we would plan on hopefully getting the grant out on the street, sometime by spring, depending on when the award will happen. And just to give you an idea of what the micros have done, in the past, we've had 6 so far. Total of $1.28 million. The average awards have been about $19,000 per business. We've helped 67 businesses, and of them, more than 50% are still in business, which is incredible because some of these go back to 2010. So, yeah, we have a really good record with these grants, I think. And I think we're able to market it pretty well. We get a lot of interest in them. And we also just closed out 2, the 2018 one, and the 2021 grant. We just completed those and had the monitoring visits, and everything went really well with the monitoring. The state was very happy. They went out and visited with 3 of our businesses in the micros. They were very happy about our program and working with us.
Cool. Thanks, Judy. So, there will be a motion on this council agenda.
Yes.
Great. That's huge for our local small businesses.
Yeah, it's a nice program.
Okay, questions, comments? Can I ask you to just like,
What is the motion gonna be on Tuesday?
It'll authorize applying for the funding, and it'll authorize Greg to be able to sign the documents and make any budget transfers and changes as needed.
Got it, thank you.
can I ask you to just repeat some of those, numbers so that I can
Sure.
like write about them on Tuesday?
Okay, so, we've awarded $1.28 million since our first program in 2010.
Okay.
The average award was about $19,000. We've helped 67 businesses. Now, I have to qualify that. Some of those are repeats. So we've helped the same businesses more than once.
Okay,
Not all, but a handful, I'd say, have gotten more than one award. They can only get an award from us they can only get an award, the state will only allow it if they're actually expanding or they're creating new jobs or, more jobs,
Okay.
or they're providing another service in addition to what they've currently been applying. So they can't just keep coming back to the well to stay in business. It has to be because they're offering more to the community.
cool.
Of those, right now, it's about 60%, but let's just say more than 50% are still in business in one way or another. It might be a little bit of a change in the business since 13 years ago, but
Cool, thank you. Okay. Sorry, lots of paper. The Economic Development Consultant Contract Extension with Johnson Schmidt.
Okay. So we entered into a contract with Johnson Schmidt in 2023 for $10,000. It's a retainer, basically. They assist us with economic development activities. They have a lot of expertise with historic tax credits and putting projects together. So I just have a small, short recap of what we've accomplished with them.
Excellent.
I do want to note that shortly after we hired them, a key member of their firm passed away unexpectedly, very shockingly. So it took them a little time, a few months to regroup. So even taking that into account, I think that we've made some good progress with them. I'd like to continue with their contract. I think it's a real benefit for the city and for our staff team. So some of the things that they've helped us on, 14 to 18 Beach Street. This is a multi-use building that has been awarded a $275,000 DRI grant. We also assisted the building owner with getting a $900,000 Restore New York grant. And Johnson Schmidt, as part of our team, met with the building owner, and the building owner is now hiring them to assist them with the historic tax credits for the building. So that's a really nice project and a very nice team effort. There's a housing development on Chestnut Street that has met with us. They want to expand. So we have put them in touch with Johnson Schmidt as well. I'm not sure today exactly where they're progressing yet, but they might be helping them with tax credits on their project as well.
Cool. Is that the one in the old school?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And some of this stuff I can't say too much because it comes in, confidentially, but
It's okay.
when you say a development on Chestnut, it's pretty clear. There's a building on 175 Main that we also just met with the building owners and a funding agency as well as I keep stumbling on that, Johnson Schmidt staff. And they're gonna be coming back out to meet with the building owners, do a review of the building and a tour of the building. And I think they'll be working with them as well on the historic tax credits. And then they've had some other meetings with building owners, since we hired them to talk about tax credits and talk about funding and stuff like that. And I didn't list those specifically. So I think that it's a good value for the city where we can, what we offer to the developers is these initial meetings that comes under our dime on this $10,000. But then if they want to continue with the firm, they hire them directly. And so then it's no cost to the city. We've just put them together with a valuable part of their team that they need to do these projects. So we'd like to put this on council to continue that contract for another year.
So it's the same $10,000, and was it included in the budget? Okay.
Yes, and today I don't have an invoice from them yet, so I'm not sure for this year, for 2023.
Oh.
But
Okay.
and I didn't get a chance to ask them what their invoice is gonna be, but they haven't billed us anything yet for the work that they've done for us.
Questions? Thoughts?
It's $10,000 for the whole year?
It's it's a retainer, so it's up to $10,000. They only get paid if they spend, if they, work, do the work and invoices.
But is it cost plus after that or fee based?
I'd have to look at the contract, I'm not sure how we
And then we would have a supplemental agreement if we wanted to go above that, it's not defined. It's not to exceed 10,000, but, you know, if we found a need, we would execute a supplemental agreement.
I see.
Cool. Okay, hearing no objection, let's move that forward. Yeah, thank you. It's nice to have you here today, Judy. Okay, DPW Senior Water and Sewer Maintenance Mechanic appointment.
Joe, do you want to start?
Sure, yeah, so this was just, obviously we discussed this at the last meeting, just wanted to bring it back up for reconsideration. I think some information was shared, some confidential information was shared regarding the desk audit, but this again was just based on a desk audit, which resulted in work being done that was out of title. So this is one possible way to resolve it, which is to appoint the person to this title, so they'd be working within title. As discussed previously, there is a difference in the budget, which is not currently included in the budget, of $5,500 in 2024. So there's an additional cost for that. Again, I think as previously discussed as well, the other options would be that the individual would continue to work in their current title, and we'd have to reconfigure how certain things are done so that we're not, you know, having any out of title work done. So really just looking to see if with, you know, some more time for consideration and the additional information that's provided, if there would be any reconsideration for supporting this appointment.
Yeah. I'll open it to the gallery. Thoughts? I have no objection to the change. I think we discussed this a little bit, right, because somehow I remember trying to explain that at the last meeting to other members of the council.
We had talked about council meeting,
We did?
the creation of the position, I believe, and then we talked about our, you know, the reason for agreeing.
Got it. Got it, okay,
And that we would, you know, eventually be coming back with a recommended appointment based on
okay,
exactly what Joe just explained.
okay, thank you, because I thought I was misremembering, I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, we
That
looked
was
at it
here.
in great detail at our last meeting of this committee.
Yeah.
Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, his wages are paid for entirely out of the wastewater fund?
Yes.
Just want to mention that as well.
Yes.
It's not out of the general code. General fund.
I favor it.
Okay,
Yeah, I have no objection.
Okay.
It's a good idea.
all right, that's 3. We'll move it up. Cool, thank you.
Never mind. One way or the other on it, that's.
Okay, thank you. Oh, that's so funny. Just silly. Okay. I went looking for my notes on that from the last meeting, but I overwrite my notes from the last meeting, so it's literally the very next thing, so I didn't have to do that. So, you know. Okay. Water treatment plant chief operator appointment. This is great, we're all excited.
So, this is a budgeted vacancy. As you may know, we currently have a part-time chief water treatment plant operator. We do have someone that is qualified and is been willing to take the position. This is included in the budget for 2024.
Okay.
The salary will be at the budgeted amount if approved. And yeah, I think it's I think everyone's feeling pretty good about it.
Okay.
There are not a lot of people that are eligible. This is one of those positions where you have to have certain certifications.
Right.
There are not large pools of candidates for this stuff.
Okay.
We're very happy that.
Is this someone who's new to the area or someone from?
No, it's someone currently in the department
Cool.
that is chief of department certification, so.
Awesome. I love to hear it, okay. I'm sorry, I'm just like moving on, like, great, that's great.
Just one other quick thing, I think, Jenny, please correct me if I'm wrong, that the budget does include, because we weren't sure of when that would be occurring, the budget does include some part-time chief operator as well.
Okay,
That may be utilized for some transition period.
yeah,
I don't have a definitive plan to offer as far as how long that will be.
okay,
We can try and follow up with you once we figure all those details out. And then just one other piece, that this would be effective January 1st.
okay. Yeah, that would be great, I appreciate you bringing that up, because I was wondering if there would be some training oversight. So was the part-time chief operator budgeted for the full year, so we'll recognize some savings then? Okay, that's great news also. Okay, does anyone have anything to say about that one?
I think it's brilliant we're promoting from within.
Me too. Yeah, I'm very excited about that. Okay, feel better now that I have input from the group. Moving on. Market Street, okay, here we go. Market Street Streetscape Bid Award and Budget. Lay it on us.
Okay, we received 2 bids for this, I'm sorry.
Can we stop for a second?
There were 3.
Craig, can we back up for a second?
Yeah.
What is the budget amount for salary for that position?
70,000.
70? Thanks.
Good question. Thanks for asking.
That's off that new wage.
So it'd be the beginning of the range for that grade of that position.
What would be the range? 70 is the start, what's the top?
Do you have that grade?
I'm gonna have.
I think I wrote it in there.
Apologize, Scott, I don't have the full.
You're right. Where did he get hired as first time? That's what my brother always says. Not a big thing, he just said it to me, that's fine.
Okay, I think
Don't stall the meeting for that.
76.
close. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Let's fast forward. Market Street Streetscape Bid Award.
Okay, sorry, yes, there were 3 bidders.
Okay.
The bid included a base bid and a base bid plus alternate. The base bidding is Market Street from Main to what we call Broad Street, or the entrance to City Federal
Right.
/ the Marks. The alternate was the rest of it. The total for the base bid plus alternate, the low bidder is $4,802,000.
That's, I'm sorry, base bid with alternate,
Yes. For the low bidder,
4 million?
$802,343.
Thank you. Sorry.
The second low bidder overall was $4,876,217.44. Which, given the tight range there, that's a good sign. I think that indicates that the bid documents were prepared well and easily understood, consistently understood. I think we got some pretty good pricing on that. Chris, anything to add on that?
It's a very good tight bid, and like Craig said, it's representation that they had very good bidding documents, and the contractors understood them very well.
So obviously it fits into the larger context of the next few motions we're talking about, but what we will be recommending is awarding that base bid plus alternate to the low bidder, which is Upstate Companies #1 LLC. So I should say the names.
Okay.
The second bidder was Both Our Construction.
Okay.
So do you evaluate the bidders as well as the bid?
Yes, yeah, checking references and all that. Wendell did that for us in conjunction with us.
They do a full de-scope, they call it de-scoping,
Yeah.
and they have a full myriad of questions that they go through. They do a Zoom meeting with us involved, and they go through these questions, and it allows us to ask questions to the contractors. And we actually interviewed all three of them.
Okay, so do you recommend?
So how do
that-
they rank, not considering the size of their bid? Are they pretty evenly matched or?
I would say so, yeah.
We can't, just to be clear, I mean, we have to go with the low bidder as long as they are qualified and responsive, they fully completed the bid documents, they filled out the bid form properly, and submitted all the other supplementary documents. And as long as we don't do that evaluation and de-scoping and find out that they're really not qualified to do the work, or there's some major issues that we've had or other people have had on past projects, that would disqualify them, we don't score them like we would an RFP.
Got it, okay.
Okay. That's helpful, thank you.
So if that is what we award, we recommend also awarding, or not awarding, but establishing a budget with an 8% contingency. 8% is a rough 8%, which would be $385,000. So if we establish a budget, for this project, it would be $5,187,343.
You said that, was 355,000, the contingency?
385.
385. Okay, 5.1. And you're recommending the base bid plus alternate, you feel like that's a good bid and we're positioned to do that?
Yeah, I think as we go through, we'll get to the end, we'll talk about the overall budget. It does fit within our overall budget. The overall project fits within the overall budget. Also, in discussing these projects with our funding agencies, ESD is the funding agency for the Market Street Streetscape projects.
Okay.
And their funding amount is $2,225,000. We also have an additional $500,000 we're planning to spend using the New York State DOT state touring route and/or CHIPS funding. So overall grant or outside funding would be $2.75 million. The other $2.45 would come out of the overall bond that the city would issue for the project.
Okay.
For that roughly 5.2, I guess my numbers here are reading here a little bit different than the one that just read, but roughly speaking, yes. What was I saying? Oh, ESD, our funding agency, conversations with them, in order to get the full 2.25, they're telling us now, and this is, unfortunately, this is relatively news to us in the last month or so, a few weeks, that we need to do the full length of Market Street to get the full 2.25 million, otherwise they would reevaluate the amount, which we didn't realize that was a thing, but, that's the reason we bid it with an alternate, is to, in case we were gonna be over our budget, we wanted to have an option, but fortunately, everything is going in well within our budget, so that's kind of working out.
Regardless of the ESD requirement, we would recommend doing the alternate. It's a project that's needed, the street needs some work, so I think we would recommend regardless of their want.
I can recall Mike Lynch complaining about Market Street's condition, and that was a few councils ago, and we've patched it and overlaid it in anticipation that we had gotten this DRI grant not long after that. It would be nice to have it come to fruition.
You're very nice how you said that. He was complaining about it.
He was encouraging the improvement of Market Street, Scott.
Okay. All right, let's discuss. I mean, is there more, do you feel there's benefit to discuss multiple items? Yeah, okay, let's do
Probably
that.
makes sense. You guys agree everything that's related to the Market Street transportation improvement.
Sure, please.
Okay, so what we call the transportation improvements phase 2, it's the transit site improvement. So it's the transit hub building itself, the bus bays, everything, the plaza around it. It's the parking lot that's being built after the garage is gone. The garage is obviously, the demolition is part of an existing contract. And then it also is the Water Street improvements that are not included in the demolition project. The demolition will basically establish a temporary pavement surface and eventually the extend retaining wall at the end. And then this contract would include all the other finishing touches,
Okay.
sidewalk, curb, pavement.
So So are we still on H?
No,
we're
we
moving
moved
to
to
I.
I.
We're gonna kind of talk about them all because they're all there.
Yes, I understand.
HI.
Okay, so we're talking about the transit hub now, right?
Yeah.
So we're gonna lump together H, I, J, and K. Transit, Market Street Transportation Improvements Operating and Maintenance Funds.
We can, sure.
Okay. Okay.
So this is the site plan conference that we attended at the planning commission meeting a few weeks ago, right?
Right.
One thing that I'm curious about this firm that's doing the design, do they have any expertise on net zero carbon?
That wasn't a goal in our project, so obviously we didn't design the building to be net zero. I can't speak for them, I think they do have a little bit of experience in that realm, I can't speak to what projects exactly they've done.
So the city doesn't have net zero as a policy goal on any of our construction? Is that a decision that was made by common council, or is that just a decision that has never been made and so we're not doing anything about it? I don't understand.
It wasn't a decision by council as far as there was not a vote to not do a net zero project or to do a net zero project. It was something that has not come up as a goal from the council or otherwise.
So the city doesn't have any policy about net zero?
Yeah, interesting. That's interesting.
For new construction? Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. I'm just talking too, so we can just have a conversation, but, you know, because we did get the recommendation from the environmental board to implement green purchasing. And so it
When
doesn't
possible.
extend, right?
Right.
I guess it doesn't extend to construction, but that's a really good thing to
Because,
call out.
yeah, the environmental board said if it doesn't do unnecessary burning onto, because I realize as you start doing it and building it,
Expensive, yeah.
expense goes up. So, I mean, if you went to net zero on this, you'd probably be almost 7 to 10 million on doing that, to go to net zero, do all that. I mean, that's why we're trying to wait for the study to come back about trying to do the geothermal down Main Street. And try to eventually plug that in and maybe, you know.
I think part of the issue too was we ended up running into, still under time constraints with this project. It just got extended further and further and further, and to try to go back to the drawing board to do a net zero project, not sure what that was gonna do to the overall expense, while we had all these time constraints, would have been more of a burden than we could have handled.
Yeah, and I think, Chris, if I'm wrong, but I think with all high efficiency, like HVAC systems and stuff like that, to bring down the carbon as much as possible.
And just so you know, because it's FTA grant related, the FTA standards are very high for the insulation of the building, the heating, the HVAC, and, you know, things like that.
But it doesn't, it won't be LEED certified either then?
I'm sorry?
Correct. It won't be LEED certified?
Do we have any LEED buildings in the city? Does anyone know? Maybe
yeah,
The
so-
lofts, I think.
Hardwick College,
Yeah, I think SUNY too.
Hardwick College has a LEED building.
Nice. Okay, sorry,
On
a little
the,
bit of a rabbit hole.
The Hillside Commons.
Oh, is it?
Mhm.
Oh, good. Okay. Okay, so is this something that has been bid? Yes.
Yes, we opened bids.
Okay.
There are a number of contracts related to this project. There's a
Okay.
general construction contract, which is essentially the building. There's a site and utility construction contract, which is site work, ground utilities, curb, sidewalk, that's what things take. There's an HVAC construction contract, which obviously is in the building, plumbing, and electrical. So you have 5 different contracts that you need to award. There was also a 6th, which was, we had no bidders on, which is the fire protection. What we're going to do there is seek to negotiate with either the HVAC or the plumbing, construction, and contractor that we eventually hire to add that scope of work to their contract.
Okay,
That's something we're allowed to do, given that we have no bidders. It's a relatively small item, we're estimating somewhere more than $100,000. So that's something that we can.
okay.
You talking like fire suppression, like a sprinkler system, or are you talking just like the monitoring system?
I can't say exactly what is in there at this point, I don't know, Chris.
I'm not 100% sure myself.
Okay.
Because just because you're a plumber doesn't mean you know how to put in a sprinkler system.
Right, there might be a subcontractor, or whoever it is, we have to be certified, vetted the same way that we've vetted contractors so far. It's just a matter of procurement wise, adding to another contract as opposed to rebidding, which is an option.
Okay. Can I ask a question before we proceed? If council goes through and awards these bids, are we committing to basically like as built the design that was presented to the planning commission?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
You know, the bids, obviously the bid documents, construction drawings and specifications are very specific. This allows them to have accurate numbers. So for the most part, those things are, you know, what's would be awarded.
Okay.
Are you need something specific?
No. Thank you.
I'd like to see that sign be more substantial. I can see kids climbing on that thing, and it's, you know, it's kind of flimsy is probably not the right word, but you know, it's just hollow plastic.
So that may be
A
an
front-lighted.
exception in the sense that was bid as an alternate, and that, you know, we would recommend awarding that, but in speaking with Wendell, they did say that that's something that, you know, we could review the final design and approve that, and there can be, you know, through a change order or a work change directive, modify that if that was something that, you know, obviously is something we're gonna add on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Having that, oh, pardon me.
No, please.
Having that made out of concrete or something more substantial than, I mean, it's attractive the way it is, but I don't see it as a long-lasting item. It seems like it's gonna sustain quite a bit of damage from people leaning on it and climbing on it.
Well, I will say that those are designed for people to be sitting on them and leaning on them and taking a picture with them. A lot of other cities have them.
Made out of that same material?
As far as I know, yeah. I mean, I've seen one up in Ottawa, and one actually two in Canada, now that I think about it.
Go take the one from Ottawa right now.
And there is something to be said about a sign that could be lit up. I mean, I think it would look much better than a cement sign. But the other thing that I think
Well,
about
it
is,
could be front
no
load.
matter how small or how big we make that sign, kids are gonna wanna climb it,
That's
because that's a challenge. So, I think you're right though, and we just have to make sure that it's made out of material that's gonna last.
Yeah,
And I will say that, you know, Wendell being transit architects and engineers, like, focused throughout this with the transit, how that's been durability, because it's gonna take a lot of use in the public space, and, so I think the same people are working on the sign, so I think
They did say that
recommend
during the
something
presentation.
that would.
That was like.
Yeah, because this was brought up.
Yeah.
We can explore that with them for sure.
no, I'm satisfied.
Okay, so since I brought up the sign, that I know the sign was kind of contentious at the meeting, people were very split. I agree with you, I think it's very cool. Some of the other like lighting elements and signage elements were also brought up as being out of conformance with the MU1 code that we just adopted and potentially too modern for that zone. And I just don't know if any, I know that ultimately that it passed, so I don't know if any reconsideration had been given to some of the like lighting elements and signage.
Ton of streetlights?
No, signs on the building,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I think signage is one of those things that we can still work with.
It's
The
a
final
pretty
sign,
small,
if there needs to be a change, it would have to be something that's, you know, really on contract, things aren't ordered, but.
Right.
And I know in their rendering, some of the signs, like the individual bus bay signs, looked a little bit, I think, you know, Wendell had advised they looked a little bit, incorrect as far as the scale and asking of them, they weren't quite representative of what reality will be, so we can look at those a little closer.
Okay.
And is that design gone by the Public Arts Commission?
Yes and no. I brought the plans to them and showed them generally, here's what we're looking to do, and asked for their input as to what sort of spaces might you wanna do some public art, because that's the, you know, they have a small budget. The city can spend $16,000 of our DRI money on public art. But we didn't have them weigh in specifically on the design of that sign or any of the specifics. We kind of just gave them here's the blank canvas, what you get any ideas. I think they're looking to go a different direction in the area.
At Foothills.
At Foothills, they're
Yeah.
looking at, you know, trying to do a mural on the side of Foothills.
Well, the reason I ask is that one of that commission's mandates is to review construction in the historical downtown area to assure that it fits in with the concept of historical downtown. I would be surprised if the Arts Commission found that building was consistent with the historical district.
Yeah, please.
This was also something that was discussed during the presentation,
Yeah,
where they found that when in cities where that had a historic district and they were putting a new building in, if they tried to make it look like it was of the same period and era of the rest of downtown, it looked out of place. And so how did they describe it? Historic-like, or is it something like that?
They said that the brick pavers tied it in with the historic downtown.
They tried to they knew that they were not gonna match what's on Main Street as far as that same period, no matter what they did. And the more they try to match, kind of the worse it looked. It looked almost plastic.
Yeah.
So instead they go this direction, if you remember, they were telling us this looks better because it's a mix of modern and historic, so it's not as in your face, I guess. It's less like Disneyland or going to Vegas, I guess, with the fakeness with the architecture, so.
But don't you think that the Foothills practice hall, they did a pretty good job on that? That looks old.
Oh, yeah, the back part where you
The
vote.
brick building where that was designed as a rehearsal hall where we watch the opera once a month.
Yeah, fair. I just wanted to clarify that you were meaning to talk about the Public Arts Commission, because we have also the Landmarks and Historic Preservation Commission.
No, Public Arts Commission, I was looking at their enabling legislation in the code yesterday morning, and one of their mandates is to review and agree that new construction in the MU1, I think it's MU1, the mixed use downtown
Okay.
district, is consistent.
Cool, yeah. Then presumably they should do that. I'm sorry, you mentioned that you brought it to them, in terms of adding art too, but not in that context, not in the context that I was talking about.
Right.
Okay, gotcha.
It's already been approved.
Yeah,
We could bring it to them, but
how does that fit in practically?
I'm
right?
beating a dead horse, I shouldn't waste the committee's time.
Well, but you raise a good point about the process, right, which is, to me, it seems like that's a more fitting job for the Landmarks Commission, which hadn't been formed at the time the Public Arts Commission had, so that's probably a way to get some historic preservation in there. So that's something to maybe discuss at a later time, maybe in legislative committee, but yeah, I think it is probably, we've been past that probably. Okay, Well, and I'm happy to hear that some of the signage could still be, brought up for discussion. I think sort of to that point, can we take a really critical eye to making it blend in without looking like it's wearing a mask. Okay, let's get to the bids.
Okay, so for general construction, the low bidder is Mermain Building Contractors.
Okay.
MURNAME.
Thank you. I wasn't even gonna try, I was just like, okay.
Their total base bid, price was $5,888,000.
588,
888.
888.
5,888,000.
Okay. That's for the transit hub, the lot, and the water street improvement.
No, that's for the general construction bid,
Part
which,
of
that
those
part is
things.
really just the building itself, and it probably was the stair tower as well, I believe.
Oh, gotcha, okay, okay, yes, I see how that can be tricky, so like,
Basically,
parcel out.
anything has a foundation and it's built above some
Okay.
of that contract, but not including electrical, plumbing, and HVAC.
Right, gotcha, okay. Okay,
Site and utility construction contracts, Boland's excavating and topsoil. $2,525,000.
okay,
HVAC construction, A. Trefson and Sons,
oh, nice, local.
$846,800. Plumbing construction, A. Trefson and Sons, $317,700.
Okay.
And electrical construction, also Trefson, $1,540,700.
Cool. And fire protection, you already said no bidders.
So fire protection, estimating $100,000, no bidders would have to be figured out either rebid or added on, which we would recommend adding on to either the HVAC or plumbing contract that we negotiated.
Okay,
So that the subtotal of the contracts, all those contracts, is $11,118,200. Recommended contingency, $1,389,775.
What was the number before that one?
$11,118,200.
sorry, what was the contingency here?
$1,389,775.
Thank you.
I'm just rounding up.
And then there's an alternate to be considered, which is the freestanding sign we were just talking about. That's $59,300.
That's expensive, huh? I feel like it's worth it though.
Sounds sturdy.
Sounds sturdy. It better be.
So that makes,
The baseball families will all go home with pictures of themselves in front of that.
100%.
and so that makes it, just do the math for it, that makes the total recommended project budget $12,567,275. That's the total for the phase 2 site.
12 million what?
Sorry.
567,275.
Wow. And so, I'm sorry, can we just briefly go over funding sources? Because you had mentioned the Market Street streetscape bid being within the total budget, but I know that you had mentioned previously that basically like if we weren't going to do the transit hub, we would like lose money.
Yeah, so let me explain so the the numbers we just read, of those numbers,
Okay.
just looking at the base bid amounts, we broke down how much was transit versus non-transit. So transit eligible, the total transit eligible is 10,146,095. So that means all of our $9,398,000, or $9,983,000 in transit grants and other transit non-city funding sources are eligible costs. So we'll fully utilize that grant and a little bit, potentially a little bit, depending on how much of the contingency we use. A little bit of that can be spent by the city.
Okay,
Some of it has to be because there's a required city match for some of those.
okay,
So when I say that if we didn't do any transit, the city general fund would pay more, we still have to have a stair and elevator tower. So the stair and elevator tower obviously serves both parking garage or parking lot, the transit hub and Market Street, anyone walking from there to Water Street or Main Street. So you really can't go without that. It is an eligible transit expense, so the transit hub would cover almost all of that. Or the transit funding would cover almost all of that. So in that sense, the city general fund is contributing only the minimum amount to the transit hub, which is our match requirement. I don't have that exact number off the top of my head right now.
that's good.
So when we look at our overall budget, I'm just gonna go back, the parking garage demolition and site work, the contract we've already awarded, $1,860,000. We're having that paid for entirely by New York State Department of State, DOS funds. As well as the NYSEG electric temporary relocation, $110,000, I think it came in a little less than that.
Oh, good,
But that's entirely paid for by the DOS funds.
okay.
We're estimating still about $1 million, we think hopefully it'll be less, but that number we'll have in January, probably from NYSEG for the permanent electric relocation. We're showing that as $1 million and listing that under the city bond side of the equation.
Okay.
For this project we're talking about now, the $12,507,000, I didn't update that number. The 12 million number I just read off.
567.
567, thank you. 9,398,000 of that is transit grants. This other grant, $299,546, which I'm not sure if it'll be exactly that. This is for the EV charging stations. So when we were awarded that grant, and then we followed up with DEC, and there was some issue on DEC's end where they're reevaluating everything. I'm not really sure. It seems to be a state level funding question. So I have a question mark by that. Ultimately, that $299, I don't think we would be getting all of that either way because we're going to be installing fewer charging stations than we would have originally. When we applied for that grant, it was assuming we were going to install, I think, 15 or 20. I think we're installing maybe half of that, 7 or 10 at this point, based on the number of parking spaces and a lot of the anticipated need at this time. So essentially that grant will cover the cost of our electric vehicles, right? And the city contribution to that 12 million whatever project was about 2.8 million. Look at the streetscape improvements, around 5.2 million total cost. 2.75 of that is the ESD grant and the other state funding that we're using. 2.45 million of that would be the city. And of the architecture, engineering, construction administration for everything that we've done, 2.5,585,000 from transit, 764,000 and change the balance of our DOS funding, and 1.15 million from the city. So all told, when you add up the city's anticipated contribution, it's about 7.4. I round up to 7.5 million. So when we talked about having a potential $10 million bond, now we're talking about having a $7.5 million bond. So that's when I say we came within budget, we did that. So, Ginny, if you want to talk more about that.
I'd like to, please. Thank you, Greg. I talked with bond counsel yesterday regarding this project. I showed them all of the detail because the bond resolution has to be worded as it relates to the various projects and also the various funds and also the various grant proceeds that will be given for all the various projects. Bond council was very impressed with everything that the city had laid out for them to review. They said that the 7.5 million investment from the city to receive, basically, to complete a $24 million project was greatly beneficial to the community, because we would be getting basically 3 to 1 on our dollar. And so he was very, very impressed. The term of the bond for this, if we have to fully fund 7.5 million, he believes that the term of the bond would be about 18 years, because they have to base the bond term based on where the money is getting invested. Most of the city money is getting invested into streets or some type of site improvement, which has only a 15-year life. There's other aspects of the project that has a longer period of life, so he thinks the blended period will be about 18 years. And he told me that currently the interest rates are about 4 to 4.5%. And of course, I told him we probably wouldn't be issuing the bonds until 2025. We may have to issue a BAN just for cash flow, because this is much more than the general fund holds, in reserves. And he understood that. But I do want to impress with the committee on how impressed he was with the entire project and the return that the city is going to be getting on their investment.
So it would be one bond issue, but we,
The grant, the $10 million grant, is going to be basically paying for the transit hub. That will not go into the calculation for the bond issuance. And then I also talked to him about, if we do a bond authorization for the fire truck, and I think I mentioned that to you earlier, that would be a separate bond resolution on its own. We could issue them together, which would save on the bond issuance costs.
Okay.
I'm gonna ask a question, but I don't want an answer tonight, I know it's gonna come up with the council, more than likely, is when the building gets built, what's the long-term plan on taking care of it as we add into more on our infrastructure? So, I don't want an answer tonight, I know it's gonna come up at the council, so I don't need to hear it twice, I just want to kind of
So we did have a little something on the next item as far as operating and maintenance costs. We kind of just did a little comparison. They're essentially very similar. Our estimate is that it's gonna cost us a little less on an annual basis for operating maintenance, elevator maintenance, HVAC, utility costs, cleaning, and that sort of thing. Are you talking about something more than that? As far as long-term costs, like
long-term
what does it
cost,
cost to replace
maintenance.
a roof 25 years from now or whatever, that sort of thing?
Kind of like where we're seeing our public safety building, where we're starting to get, because it was built in the 80s, now late 80s, in the 80s and late 80s, whatever. Now we're starting to get more and more where we gotta invest in it, so.
Okay. So did we say all that needs to be said with regard to the bond resolution? We can move on to the bit about maintenance, okay, I'm excited to learn about that as well. Thank you for including that in this presentation.
So the bond resolution will be on the December 5th agenda.
Okay.
And, along with these bid awards.
Okay. Do we have any thoughts on that before we agree to add that to the agenda? No? Okay, thanks for answering our endless questions about that over the life of this project. Okay, so let's talk about Market Street transportation improvements, operating and maintenance costs.
So we're not anticipating any difference in labor costs associated with maintenance, operating. It's just moving our operation from where it is now down to this new site.
Okay.
As far as cleaning staff and all that, we have with our existing staff.
Okay.
Snow melt system on the plaza is obviously a big help with snow removal. That'd be a bigger area to cover or uncover than we have now, but with the snow melt system, that makes that very easy. So we don't really see any labor cost increase in your equipment costs outside of the equipment in the building. Gas and electric supply and distribution, when I compared 104 Main Street where we lease now, which we pay for utilities there, the parking garage, Arcadia Trailways, those costs are pretty similar. There's really not much of a difference between them.
Okay.
From existing to what we project. Keep in mind, obviously now the arcade, we're paying Boardwalk $15,000 per year to do all the maintenance and cleaning of that. So our staff are no longer doing that. So that staff time that was spent there now is freed up. We're just paying for that service. So that's included, basically no change. It's still $15,000 whether we do this project or not. HVAC, we are estimating around $10,000 per year for the various maintenance contracts related to the transit hub and the stair elevator tower. Elevators, between two of them, about $6,000 per year, those maintenance contracts. And you have things like cleaning supplies, $750. Generator, maintenance schedule, $1,100. That's something we have now. Generators just being replaced in a different location. The lease that we pay at 104 Main Street where OPT bus storage now is about $21,000 per year, so that goes away. Obviously, it'll be here as long as we're in construction, but after that, we have an agreement through 2025 right now. We would expect this project to be completed in 2025, to be able to move into the building.
Okay.
So ultimately, based on the assessment, I had about $60,000 annual cost currently and $52,000 thereafter. One thing we did not add here was insurance. The difference there, obviously, we no longer have a parking garage to insure, but we do have a new building to insure, so there could be a delta there that we didn't put into this.
Okay, thank you for doing the overall comparison of what we pay now versus what we might pay in the future.
Greg, I'm not sure, did you mention we're also no longer going to be maintaining the pedestrian walkway?
Right.
So all of that cost will be gone?
Okay. And, obviously we're leasing the space, and this is sort of off topic, so we don't really have to talk about it now, but with regard to, like, once the buses move, what that portion of the street is going to look like?
Up on Main Street?
Yeah.
I don't think it would make sense to have parallel parking along the curb there.
Okay.
For the businesses along that stretch. I have a draft plan I'd like to share with DOT. That stretch of Main Street from Chestnut and Main intersection to the highway is owned and operated by New York State DOT, so we can't tell them what to do. We can discuss that with them and get their agreement.
Okay.
It would make sense to me that we could narrow the lane slightly and possibly fit bike lanes on each side of the road along with that parking lane and carry that theme all the way down to Golden Guernsey by changing some lane configuration further down the street. That's not a conversation I've had with them just yet.
Okay.
We're not trying for that, but
Cool. Yeah.
absent all of that, I would think that parallel parking on the street would be the obvious priority.
Okay, cool.
You mentioned snow melt system early in the conversation. Was there a cost associated with that? I heard you say snow melt, but the rest of it, I may have zoned out, I'm not sure.
That's okay, I didn't say the specific cost of it, the cost of operating that is included in the utility cost estimate that we did, so those numbers, that 52,000, that all include that. That snow melt system is, the heat for that is generated by the HVAC system in the building, and that snow melt system covers the plaza area, so whenever pedestrians walk around to their buses, so the area around the transit hub building, so. I don't have a specific construction cost of that without talking to the contractor, so.
And I remember they mentioned it at the site plan review, but I
Yeah.
don't remember the details of it.
Okay, we're halfway there. L, animal services contracts with the SPCA and superheroes.
This would be with the Susquehanna SPCA, their primary contract for animal, if we pick up an animal, our animal control officer would transfer it to the SPCA. There's a contract in place for that, and this would be renewing it for 1 year.
Can I ask a question? Thank you. It's, for as long as I've been on council, it's always been with SPCA. Is there any reason why we couldn't do like a multi-year contract?
Yes, or no, there isn't we could. I mean,
Okay.
but in this case, I asked that question.
Uh-huh.
They're looking to change their fee structure sometime, but, in anticipation of 2025. So
Okay.
they didn't want to come into a multi-year contract now, understanding that they're gonna look at their fees increasing. So that's why they wanted to extend it for just 2025.
Okay, thank you.
We did look at that with the other one, our secondary animal control shelter, superheroes and routines. And I believe we did a 3-year.
Oh, cool.
Having that contract in place while we don't really use it because we go to SPCA, it helps them in being able to be eligible for funding that they apply for.
Okay, cool.
So this is a 1-year extension of the existing contract for SPCA, but it's a 3-year contract with the superheroes?
Yes.
Okay. Cool. Any objection to that continuing on?
No.
No? Okay, great. M, occupational health services contract with Bassett.
That's another, I don't know, Joe, if you want to jump in, but another annual contract extension. I can't recall if this one is just an extension or if this is just a renewal. Do you recall, Joe?
I think this is a renewal.
I think it's a
I
renewal.
think it's been a 2-year typical contract, and this is at the end of the 2 years. So we'd be looking for 2 years again. This is still in progress. Some of the people that we work with over there have been out, so we're trying to get it all finalized in time.
Okay.
For the next council.
At one point during this existing contract period, we had added to this contract, it's our 19A drug and alcohol testing as a service that previously a different provider was under contract with the city. We switched to Bassett, so that'll be incorporated in this as well.
Okay. Thoughts from the group?
Yep, that's fine.
Standard, okay.
Standard.
Great. Labor relations, contract extension with Coughlin and Gerhart.
Same theme, this is I forget now, I believe this is a 5-year contract, and this is a 1-year extension on that contract.
So we had a 5-year contract.
I'm sorry, I mistaken.
I think we're in the 5-year contract, but the terms are adjusted each year.
Right, each year allows for a 1-year extent, 1 year at a time extension.
Yeah.
If we agree upon the terms. The rates would increase $10 per hour in 2024.
With no change to the retainer.
Approximately how much do we pay them each year? Just,
So the retainer is $1,700 a month.
okay,
The hourly services depend on what we have going on with them. So it's difficult to estimate because it depends
okay,
on what we have going on. Like if you look annually, there's some years, it can fluctuate fairly significantly depending on what's going on.
okay, gotcha.
We try to keep it obviously mostly in the retainer work if we can.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Hearing no objection, I'm gonna move forward to the budget transfers report. Everyone's getting hungry.
That report I'm still working on, and I will be sending that out to the entire council. This is the budget transfers that are approved by the city administrator.
Okay,
And we normally bring it to the finance. I apologize, I just didn't get it ready for tonight's meeting. And I will hopefully be sending it out tomorrow or Saturday to all council members.
okay. Did we do that quarterly?
We try to. We haven't had very many of them until just recently. So I'm going to go back to the last time we did, I'm just gonna put them all together
Okay, and then we'll get another one in January.
Get another one in, probably more like February. It's gonna
Oh,
take
yeah,
us.
January's great.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, is that something that,
It doesn't need council approval,
Right.
it just needs to be reported.
just FYI, totally, okay,
So if we send it out, and if you'd like to have us bring it back for the next agenda,
that'd be great.
say so, or
Just
we
in
can
case.
plan on it.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, that way, if you have any questions,
Yeah,
you can either email us the questions or you can bring them back to the next committee meeting if you
true,
like.
that's true. Okay, yeah, I just wanted to make sure, because sometimes there's some discussion around it, and I wanted to make sure, because we probably won't talk about it if it goes to council, but we might talk about it here, so.
And just to fill you in on the process, when those transfers come in, I usually attach quite a bit of detail to the actual budget adjustment that gets created within our financial system. And Greg is able to open all those attachments before he approves it. I will attach emails from the department heads justifying what it was that they needed the extra funds for and things like that. Sometimes I actually print out histories of all of their expense codes that we're working on, and that all gets attached. So there's a lot of detail for Greg to review in the process. And he and I do a Zoom, we talk about each one, and that's the process that we go through.
Oh, thank you for telling us.
So is that what this asterisk indicates, is that you're just reporting?
The asterisk would indicate that we were going to give you a supporting document. That's what we don't have prepared yet, so we'll email that out and we'll put this back on the next agenda.
Okay. That sounds
Well, that
great.
reminds me,
Please,
I wanted to ask Greg a question. This goes all the way back to the beginning of the meeting.
oh, man,
When
Okay.
you send us when you send us the document that's marked up indicating changes, how will you get that to us? Will that come electronically?
Yeah, I'll email that.
So you'll highlight it digitally then?
Yeah, I'll have to work with Dave Hoteling and see if they have that already, if we have to highlight, sometimes you can track changes and, in Word, but one way or the other, we'll show you what we've.
Thank you.
that's so fine, okay. Okay, excellent, so, back to where we are, fast forwarding again, budget transfer for OPT.
Yes. As you know, Greg's threshold is up to $20,000 for a budget transfer. OPT needs some transfers for some of their payroll codes and also for their maintenance on the buses, which exceed that limit. And so I'll be presenting a budget transfer. Well, it's really going to be a budget amendment to increase those expense codes and then to increase our CARES funding as the revenue source for it. And that will be brought for council approval.
Does anyone have an objection to the full council taking a look at that on Tuesday? Okay, thank you, Jimmy. Tax levy, re-levies, and budget motions.
Yeah, I just wanted to inform them, I'm sorry, Greg.
Okay.
Okay, I just wanted to inform the committee that on December 5th will be the standard budget motions that you'll be seeing on the agenda. The first motion will be signifying that you held the public hearing and there were no comments, and that since no changes were made, you will be adopting the budget itself. Then there will be another motion to adopt the levy for the city and also the library. That same motion will include the re-levies for the unpaid water and sewer bills and the code enforcement bills, and also the prorated taxes. And then those are the annual motions, and then also in that levy motion, we also do an estimate for the tax rate. And so I just wanted to remind the committee that these are the annual budget motions that will be appearing on the agenda. And then going along with that, with those motions, is that we'll also have a motion to adopt the water rates that were discussed with the tentative budget, and also a motion to adopt the sewer rates in accordance with the local law that was laid.
Will there be a second hearing on the common council agenda?
Like after we vote for the sewer rates?
No, for the, a second budget here. Is the budget hearing done?
The budget hearing is done, correct?
Day before yesterday?
Yeah, the sewer rates, the way that works, that hearing happens at the 19th, second meeting in December, because that's a local law.
Okay, additions to general fund reserve accounts.
Yes, as we discussed at the budget meeting, I would like to make a recommendation to the council to approve additions to the general fund reserves. And as we spoke about before, I would like them to consider transferring $350,000 to our highway equipment reserve, $400,000 to the parking reserve, $250,000 to the public safety reserve, and $60,000 to the IT reserve. And as we discussed at the budget meeting, the highway equipment reserve is down to $144,000. That reserve needs to be replenished. The parking reserve is anticipating in installing the paid parking over the next few years. The public safety reserve, we want to replenish, especially if we're going to be purchasing expensive apparatus. And the IT reserve is also down to about $40,000, and I'd like to replenish that back up to about $100,000. That could also be used in the future for the conversion if we do decide to go with Tyler Technology.
Okay.
So,
I'm sorry, so we have not made a decision on Tyler Technology yet?
not yet, no.
Okay, so it was not included in the 2024?
Correct, right. And when we do make the decision of what upgrade we're going to do, we'll be bringing that to council for a capital project type activity.
Oh, interesting.
That way it won't be in the general operations budget until everything is up and running.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I meant to ask that last week and I forgot. I'm so sorry to have jumped in there.
That's quite all right.
Can I also ask, you had mentioned, Greg, that in the parking reserve, there's currently $100,000, so this would be in addition to that?
Yeah, and it would bring it up to the 500 that we're anticipating in the capital plan. And then at the same time, I would like the council to consider, oh, no, that's the next item. Sorry.
Okay. And this is all based on surplus, right?
Correct.
Okay.
In the presentation that I gave to the council where we went from 2020 to the end of 2023, our unrestricted reserves increased over $4 million. So I was asking for consideration to put some of that money back into the reserves. As I've explained to council on numerous occasions when we've talked about bond council and investors, they look at our investments of how we are reserving our fund balance, which shows good practice that we are being proactive in our future activities.
Have you given us a list of all the reserves?
Yes, you got a full detail of that at the budget meeting, and you got it on paper, you also got it digitally.
Okay, cool. All right. So discussion, I'm sorry, could you just read those one more time?
Sure, it's $350,000 to the highway equipment.
Okay.
$400,000 to parking.
Mhm.
$250,000 to public safety.
Okay.
And $60,000 to IT.
Thank you. And this is out of that 4 million?
Correct.
Okay. Discussion? These would all be, I'm so sorry.
No, it's all right.
This would be a motion?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, please go ahead.
No, I was just saying no. I think
No
that it's
objection?
fine, no objection,
Okay.
considering where all the money's coming from.
Council has the authority to restrict reserves.
Mhm.
They also have the authority to unrestrict reserves if it becomes necessary.
Okay. Thoughts from the east end of the table?
I'm good.
Okay. Okay, great. Then we'll move this up. Thank you.
Thank you.
General fund contribution to the internal service fund.
Yes, as I informed council at our last meeting, The internal service fund is supported by all of our operating funds and also by the OPT fund. That is for the maintenance of all of the city's equipment and vehicles. The cash balance usually runs in a negative, and the reason being is because it is a proprietary fund, and all of their inventory parts that they buy, and also all of the equipment that they buy, goes onto a balance sheet account instead of going through the P&L. So it's just a different way of reporting. And all of the funds will eventually replace that as they're used. But what ends up happening is at the end of the year, when we close the central garage's finances out, there's always a negative cash balance. So I need to do a due to, due from between the general fund and the central garage to cover the negative cash balance.
Okay.
In 2024, Central Garage is anticipated to purchase a new lift for $60,000 and a new forklift for $45,000. They're going to need the cash to buy those two pieces of equipment. So instead of covering that large of a negative cash balance, I would just like to advance the money, which will eventually get paid back as through the work orders and through depreciation. But it's basically just for a reporting mechanism. That's all it is.
That makes sense to me. Yeah, everybody's okay with that? Okay. This is a silly question, is there any impact on our interest earnings when we do something like that?
No, it's because we pool our cash and when we earn interest every month in various accounts. But internally, all of the cash accounts are accounted for individually by fund and by activity.
Okay.
Then that interest gets allocated appropriately depending on what it is for. At the end of the year, we will take the average cash balance for the general fund, the water fund, the sewer fund, and the library. And then we will take the unrestricted interest that is earned on all of our cash and we allocate it based on the average monthly cash balance.
Oh.
And so OPT does not get any interest allocation, neither does the central garage, neither do any of our capital projects, unless it is mandated because we have excess bond proceeds.
Okay. Okay, so but if we take funds from the general fund and basically float them to central garage, if central garage doesn't get interest, there's still no impact?
No, it will not modify the apportionment that the general fund will get because of how we allocate the due to, due from at the end of the year, because I have to take it out of the general fund cash and put it over in the central garage cash anyway. So it's not gonna change the average allocation.
Okay, this year?
Or next year either, because at the end of the year, I set up due tos and due froms for all the accounts that are in a negative cash balance, one being the central garage.
Okay.
So it's just a matter of timing of when I account for that cash flow.
Okay.
So it will not hinder the interest allocation at all.
Okay, cool, thank you. Okay, I'm sorry, did we already agree that there are any issues, no issues? Okay. Okay, thank you. Maskey Field Grandstand demolition and related improvements project funding. Wait a second.
Yeah, this is the $1 million.
Wait a minute. Okay.
This is the $1 million that we
Right.
talked about with the SAM grant. And I just want to grab my notes. Dasney actually called me back today.
Oh, good.
And so in my conversation with her, she understands the complications of DASNY SAM grants. DASNY themselves do not get involved in the grants in the beginning or at the end. They only get involved in the middle. And she said what happens is that these grants are controlled by the majority Senate Finance Committee. And because there's been change in leadership, a number of the grants were put on hold. And she also said that the city did an excellent job in getting everything that they needed to do to get this grant processed. She called up our file, she saw all of our deadlines, and she said that because of COVID, the desk audit got delayed by almost a year at the state level. But once the state got to our grant, they saw that our seeker was completed on time, all of our paperwork was submitted on time, and we were in the first batch of SAM grants that got submitted to the Senate Finance Committee for processing. And it happened in March of 2021. All of those that were submitted are still sitting there. And she said that they cannot help us move it forward anymore, that it has to happen with our senator. Her suggestion was that the mayor contact the governor, the leader of the Senate, and the Senate Finance Committee themselves to keep requesting that our grant be reconsidered and to get the grant actually executed. Once that step happens, then DASNY will process the actual grant themselves and get the city reimbursed. She said there are a number of municipalities that are in the same situation that we are. But what I had done at the last council meeting is I asked for $1 million to be transferred from the general fund to fund that capital project, and I would like to present a motion for consideration to move that $1 million from the general fund to the capital project fund, because right now that capital project fund got a negative $1 million. But I put in the motion, I put, however, if the state does honor the grant, that money will get returned to the general fund. So it's just up for the council's consideration if they want to do that. We still have to cover it. I will still have to set up a do from between the capital project and the general fund, because that money has been spent. It was spent timely and according to the grant guidelines. And with any SAM grant, and I just want to make it very clear, with any SAM grant, there is always a risk, because if the grant does not get processed until the project is completed, but you complete it at your risk that the state may not honor the grant. But our history with our SAM grants, we have never had one not be honored.
Can you tell me what SAM stands for?
Yes, it's the state, hold on a second.
Assistance to municipalities?
Yes, thank you.
It's state and municipal facilities.
Yeah.
I had to write it down.
So the copyright.
Yeah, state and municipal facilities program is what it stands for.
It's pork, to be honest.
Okay.
And that's why it's stuck in political
And I did
quagmire.
Okay.
have a conversation with the mayor. He had a voicemail from Senator Overacker just the other day and yesterday, saying that he's still continuing to work on the issue, but the situation is not yet resolved.
He was over at Nags yesterday. I wish I'd have known about this. I would have put the arm on
Overacker was there?
him.
Oh.
Yeah, and I think the mayor, every time he sees the senator, will ask him about it. But, you know, she suggested go straight to the governor.
Okay. And that was.
Like,
I'm sure I can remember
suggestion
that.
too, I think that the mayor, might want to contact Jim Seward. This grant was originally awarded to the city from Jim Seward directly. And I know he's not in the office anymore, but, I think it would help.
Yes, the mayor did mention to me that he was gonna try to contact Jim. He knows that Jim right now is, ill. So I'm not sure of the opportunity to actually communicate with him. But he did tell me, I wanna say last month, he was gonna try to contact Jim.
Yeah. Okay. So, but what are the options, right? Like, do we have an option other than this, or?
No,
Not really.
we really don't have any other option, because we can't apply for another grant because the work is already done.
Right.
So, so our only option, the only option that I can see is that We take it out of reserves to fund the project and then return it to reserves if the state does eventually pay us.
Okay.
So we already wrote the check, is that right?
Yes, we actually spent the money back in 2020. We've been carrying this for a while.
Okay. If we don't have another option, then that's what we have to do. So, I mean, that's what I think. Group?
Oh,
Yes.
no, I agree.
Yes.
There isn't a.
Okay,
Okay, so
thank you.
you're welcome. So a motion will be presented for council consideration.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we're almost there, folks. Restricted donation to the fire department.
Yes, we received a $100 donation just this week, and that is restricted for the fire department. This is another person who faithfully every year donates $100 for the fire department.
That's awesome. I'm assuming no objections.
No.
Okay. Water treatment plant product standardization, et cetera, topic lead.
Yes, there's going to be two motions.
Okay.
Presented to council, and I just want to get them in front of me so I talk intelligently here. These are both from Stan Schaefer, our part-time chief water plant operator. One of them was standardized back in 2001, and it was for the polyaluminum chloride, and they used this to, let me see, I make sure that I say this correctly, to test the water turbidity, am I saying it right? Turbidity. And this is very essential for them as far as knowing what the levels that are in the water. And this product was proven to be consistent and accurate with the results, and when they used other products or generic products, they were not getting consistent results. So back in 2001, we had standardized this project for the water lab. However, the company has now changed to a different company, and we need to refresh the 2001 motion to update the company's name.
Okay.
Now, the second one that we need to standardize is also for the water lab.
Okay.
We received our certification from New York State Department of Health for the approval to perform total coliform and E. coli analysis on drinking water samples. Did I say that all correctly? Thank you. And the state approved using Colilear, C-O-L-I-L-E-R media to perform these tests. So we are mandated by our authorization from the Department of Health that we have to use this particular media to do the tests, so we need to standardize that.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, I was still typing. Okay, the part-time wage schedule.
Greg, do you want to keep going?
Sure.
Okay, alrighty, so in front of you on your desk, you have the 2024 proposed part-time hourly rate schedule. And much like all of the grids that we have negotiated with unions and with the admin manual, Greg has developed a grid level also for the part-time hourly rates. We did analysis of the full-time positions and came up with a range for the similar title within the part-time hourly rates. And you'll see that there is either a $2 or $3 range that is being suggested for the council consideration.
You all know you can just speak up with questions at this point, right? We've been doing this for almost a full year.
And I just wanted to let you know, I incorporated these changes into the 2024 part-time budget.
Cool.
I think this is just straightforward since we've already made changes before, so this is just following up on
And also just to refresh on the committee, the, New York State 2024 minimum wage is $15. As a government, we do not have to meet that standard, we can go with the federal minimum wage, but our part-time hourly rate schedule has always been at least the minimum for our starting point.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, hearing no objections, I think I can go forward. Okay, the admin manual.
The admin manual was brought to the committee last time. Do you want to wait for
Yes.
Scott to come in?
Oh, no, I think he has to leave for this.
Okay. The admin manual was brought to the committee, last finance committee, and you asked to bring it back to, so you could be able to review it.
Yes.
We had gone over some minor wording changes, but the biggest change was, again, we restructured the grid, and we also adjusted the grid, beginning range and maximum range based on the salary studies.
Right.
And as we've talked about a number of times, every city employee was looked at from the salary study, not only the one that we paid for, but also for the NICON salary study.
Yeah.
And we adjusted every city employee within the target of around 90%. Some might be 89, some might be 93, just depends on the situation as far as where they currently are.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And then also, Joe just whispered in my ear, I just wanted to remind you that in the admin manual, we're also increasing the admin employees' health insurance contribution from 10% to 15%. So I hope you've had time in the 2 weeks to look it over. I don't know if you have any questions.
No, I don't at this time. I didn't come up with any, but I appreciate the time to review it. And I appreciate the highlighted changes, that makes it very easy.
And we would like to bring this to, for council consideration on the,
Was this emailed to us
Mhm.
also? Okay, I'll have to go back and look at it. I was not able to look at items. for the next meeting.
Maybe we could put this on the discussion agenda since Scott can't discuss it and Dave hasn't had a chance to look at it. That'd be great, thanks.
Yeah, that's fine.
Is
I
that-
mean, either way, we can pull it off.
There
I'm
was,
just anticipating there will also
there
probably
was
be
plans to do
questions.
that anyway, with a number of,
Yeah.
because in some cases, if one's pulled and changed or not approved, then it affects others, that we wouldn't want to have stuff in the thing.
Gotcha.
Gotcha. Okay, cool, great, thank you. Okay. Almost there, I'm flipping the page. Purchasing policies and procedures, we got that in our packet, right?
yes, this is here. I don't think this was sent out to you electronically, but I will be sending it out to you tomorrow.
Okay.
I just don't quite remember. Sherry, was this included in your? Okay, so on here, we can just flip the pages. I will take you right to the changes because they're all highlighted in red. We made very minor changes to this. The purchasing agent and I sat down and went over the various items that had come up during the year or anything that he thought needed modification. And it was very minimal because we feel that this document is very thoroughly written. It was originally edited by George when he first came here, and it's been improved upon over the years since. So if you go to page 9, that's the first change, and it's the execution of awarded contracts. You will see in red that the city administrator title
Okay.
is added along with the mayor to execute any awarded contracts. That was a request from the charter change, so we incorporated it into the purchasing manual. The next change, if you go on to page 11, these are standardizations adding companies that the council has approved for joint purchasing consortiums. So both of these that are in red, the buy board and the interlocking purchasing system TIPS, both in Texas have already been approved through council in 2023, so we now have added them to the purchasing policy themselves.
Okay.
And then if you go to page 18, the two motions that we just talked about for the two products that we're going to standardize have been added to the list of the approved standardized products. And those are all of the changes to the city's purchasing policy.
We were talking about the sustainability policy, which is attachment E, so I was just checking that over just to refresh.
Oh, your
Yeah.
head's just turned at the same time to look at the clock.
I was just wondering.
Yeah, so
Sorry.
it does say minimize or offset impact on the environment in the policy, so that's good. Okay, I have no objection to that. I think the changes make sense, and the rest of it is what we have, and absent of any, serious need to change anything. And I don't hear any other objections, so I think we'll move that forward. Thank you.
We can double check with Dave when he returns.
Okay. Okay, the fee schedule, topic Z.
Okay, you have it on your desk. This was just hot off the press today, so I will be sending this out digitally.
Thank you.
But again, I have all the changes highlighted in red.
Okay,
Yeah, I noticed that.
okay.
So our first change is when we get to page 4.
Okay.
And you'll see where we've got, it's under permits. We would like to change the late inspection fee working without the required permit, building permits, change it to late permit fee for all categories. This was a request from the code enforcement office. This will give them more availability to handle the people that do work that do not have the permits on time or do not have the permits at all.
The way it's written now, it's just related to building and plumbing permit.
Okay.
So now it'll be any permits that are.
Sounds good.
Okay, the next one is on page 8. The animal shelter fees are being updated based on the current contract with the SPCA.
Okay.
So they're coming down by $10?
We're reducing the fee for a lost dog.
Well, what it is, it's $10, but then it goes up $10 for the second and third impoundment. So we align these with the contract. Is that correct, Carrie?
Okay.
So why it went from 20 to 10, I do not know, but that's what's in their current fee schedule.
Oh, that's nice though, because the boarding fee went up.
The
Which
boarding
makes
fee
sense.
went up from $40 to $60.
Because if you're, it rewards being responsive. Yeah, that's good. Okay.
Okay, so the next section is the ambulance fees, and I want to talk to you a little bit about this one.
Yes, please.
As you know, Multi-Med is our billing service. They're absolutely a wonderful company. They have provided the city excellent service for many years. Bill Shipman is one of the presidents, and he's just full of knowledge, full of information. We had a very nice conversation today. And what he did is he went over their clients' average charges, and they have a number of clients that they're able to work with. then compared it to ours. What is in the proposed column is the average of their clients, and I just want to talk to you a little bit about that. So BLS, our current charge is $1,200. Their average is $1,400, but their high is $2,400.
Wow.
So the ALS, our current charge is $1,600, for ALS 1, the average is $1,800, the high is $3,200. ALS 2, our current charge is $1,800, their average is $2,200, but the high is $3,700. Special care transport, we don't do this right now, we have it on our fee schedule, but we have to have a written plan with the specific paramedic skills, which the chief says that once he has all his staff trained to the levels that they need to be trained at, that is when the written plan will be submitted to the Department of Health to get us approved to do special care transports. Special care transports, the averages that he looked at range from 3,500 to 4,500 to 5,600, and that we're suggesting 3,000 for our area. The no transport fee, the average was 225, but the high was 895. And the mileage, our current charge is $29, the average is 35 with a high of 56 per mile. So the suggested proposed prices or fees for 2024 is to bring ours up to the average. Now, I want to expand on that a little bit. As you know, what we charge is not what we get paid. And the reason being is because our percentage of Medicare and Medicaid patients that we have is over 70%. So we get reimbursed the Medicare and Medicaid rate. And then our commercial insurance is about, I want to say a little over 20%. So the average that we are collecting on an ambulance call, even though those are our rates, are $467.74. Okay, so by increasing our rates to this dollar, Bill has projected that we will receive an additional $47,000 in revenue just by increasing that average reimbursement between Medicare, Medicaid, and commercial insurance. But also, he informed me on two aspects today, that the governor has signed the bill. I don't know if you heard about the bill, where they want the insurance companies to pay the ambulance providers directly instead of some of the insurance companies paying the patient directly. She has signed the bill to make it so the ambulance companies are paid directly. However, it doesn't become effective until 2025. There's also a caveat in there that they want the patient to sign the check along with the provider. I think that's going to be very difficult to administer, especially if our payments are electronic. But just to let you know, I want to just give you some statistics. The city had to write off in 2022 a little over $22,000 because the insurance payment went directly to the patient and the patient never turned it over to the city. So those accounts had to be turned over for bad debt collection. Our bad debt collection is, it's small, but it's at least something. And then so far in 2023, we've had a little over 15,000 that we have lost because it went directly to the patient and the patient does not turn it over to us. So that bill at the governor's office, even though she signed it, will not become effective in 2025, and it may be a little bit hard to administer. His prediction is he does not know how much pressure the insurance lobbies are going to put on between now and 2025, but time will tell. So I just wanted to share those statistics with you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
No, please.
Okay, and then the last thing that I wanted to say is that we would like to add a new charge of lift assistance.
Yeah.
And this is when the ambulance is called as the first call for when there's life alert, for, you know, if someone has fallen and they need assistance or whatever the reason may be. And now this will allow us to bill for that at $100 per visit.
Okay.
Okay, before we leave the fire section,
Okay.
even though that we don't have any proposals, the EMS standby charges, the fire equipment standby, and emergency management and special needs, we need guidance, and I'm just gonna, I'll throw this over to Greg to talk about.
I was just gonna ask questions about that.
So Greg, do you wanna speak about this section? Or do you want me to keep going, or?
Maybe Brian wants to talk for some, current practice as to what we do there.
So with the conversation earlier this year about the park's rate changes, this is kind of in the same boat, because, if you look at those charges, when we do 4th of July, that hits just about every single one of those, because we have 6, sometimes 8 people in the park. And we gotta cover it with a fire engine, because we got fireworks, we gotta do the firework permit, we gotta do, we gotta set up a command post, so the police department's in there, an incident action plan. So we're hitting every single one of those. We have the ATV down there, so that's gonna be several thousands of dollars that whoever's putting it on is gonna have to fork over. We have not been billing for that, but it's also costing us money to provide that service. So it's something like that, you know, I need guidance from you on, are we just going to say, we're gonna eat it, or we're going to make these groups pay for it? There's also, you know, we provide ambulance coverage for football games. Should we be charging every entity for those football games and that coverage?
Yeah.
The practice hasn't been consistent. I want to make it consistent, so I'm just looking for your guidance.
And may I jump in here, Greg?
Sure.
So when the chief and I talked earlier, I said, we either charge everyone or we charge no one. Or we charge everyone, and then Greg made the suggestion today when we were talking about it, we charge everyone, and the people that we don't charge needs a council motion. For example, like the 4th of July event.
Okay.
So that way, if we have a large event coming up, we can bring it to the council's attention to say, do you want to consider waiving this fee? Or the applicant can request council to waive the fee.
Okay. That's something to consider.
I've got a thought.
Yes, please share.
So I agree with consistency. I like consistency. I think it's a good thing. I also have no objection to whatever we decide is being consistent. If we need to make a change, bring it in front of the council. But let's say we decide to charge everybody. And we have the ambulance at football games. And that becomes too much of a burden for the school district to pay for every football game. So the ambulance isn't there, and then something happens. I would much rather go the other way and have it there and eat the cost and make sure that the care is there in case something happens. That's my opinion.
We could also consider private versus public,
Okay,
just another idea.
yeah.
I don't know, I'm not too hyped up on that, because that's, you're starting to segregate there. I think if you're gonna try to be consistent, you need to be consistent, you can't. That's what you're trying to go for. But I'm kinda like on board with Dave a little bit, well, mostly, because I'm thinking of like, 4th Fourth of July, we don't really contribute a lot of money towards the Fourth of July, and I don't mind if we have to eat the cost for that.
Well,
Cause it's such a big event. I'm just saying, we don't, we're not the ones buying the fireworks, we're not the ones doing them. And I know what you're gonna say, I'm just saying overall,
And they
so a
asked,
big event like that. But on the same token, when you start thinking about it, I'm just like, with my job, I'm just thinking about, I'm always filling out the paperwork, I'm always being charged for the ambulance anyway. Up where I'm at, for football games and,
Equestrians,
but I worked with the chief where we came up with some different ideas to help us out. Cause like, we don't necessarily on commencement need that ambulance sitting there, we have them come up with a fly cover. So I mean, the chief has worked around stuff and, but I'm on with you, Dave, we had a ref go down a few years ago at a football game. It was a good thing that they were there, cause they actually really saved that person's life with the quick.
The high school had an athlete go down.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago.
So I'm on board with you. How do you put a price tag on somebody's life?
Yeah.
So I'm right there with you, David. It might be just somebody wants to, I don't know.
so we're saying that these fees, that these services are included in fire protection in our municipality. For everyone. If we're gonna try to establish consistency. Cause I'm with you, there are certain things that you feel like it's absolutely necessary, kind of regardless of the cost, but how do we delineate that? Because otherwise we're stuck in this, objective land.
So I almost look at it like fire alarms. If you're gonna charge one person for fire alarms, you charge everybody for the fire alarms. Which I think is a thing that we really should be looking at.
Yeah. I will say, one of the things that I find intriguing about asking for a waiver for the fees is that I know that Hill City Celebrations has come to us at this committee at council and asked for financial support. And because this is sort of silent financial support, it's not considered, I don't think that as much weight is given to it, but if we really were to look at, to your point, what the cost to the city of public safety at those events is, there is a lot of financial support going into that event from a public safety standpoint.
Well, sorry, just
please.
add to that?
Yeah.
Thank you. That was what I was gonna say before, Scott, is that our labor and our overtime costs between public safety and DPW for these events is not small.
Yeah. So I think that puts a fine point on, we could theoretically be charging for this and we don't. But I don't know if it's necessary all the time in order to make that point.
I'm just afraid that if we start doing too much, then we're not gonna be the city of, hey, come. I think we're gonna work against ourselves, and you're trying to bring people in, you're trying to get stuff going. I think we're gonna start working against ourselves.
Well, and if it's something where someone has to appeal for these fees, like, how are we making the determination anyway? Like, do we, we wanna be an inclusive community, so do we, not charge for Juneteenth? I don't know if they've been charged before, or like Pride Fest.
And Dave Merzick, unfortunately, is not here to advise us right now as far as legally what we could.
It seems like we could really get ourselves into trouble
Yes.
by just making a judgment call on who we're gonna charge and who we're not. Like, fees are fees, so.
For some reason, his voice is in my head saying, you charge for everything or you charge for nothing?
Yeah,
It's just-
so I'll let you guys figure this out here.
I don't know,
Well, we've been going at this for 2.5 hours.
yeah.
something like this, I think, I would suggest we push this forward for the council to have this discussion rather than hash this out when we're already tired.
I think that's where it ultimately needs to be anyway for discussion, because it's,
Okay,
I
so I'll present the fee schedule here, and if you would like, I'll put question marks
Yeah.
on that section. Does that work?
Works for me.
Okay.
Yeah, because I agree with what Dave said a while ago. How do you put a price on a line?
Oh, I know, it's a difficult situation.
But we also know the risks are not uniform in all the different events either. That's why it makes this difficult.
Yeah.
Okay, and the last one, and we can update Katie when she gets back here, the last change is adding language for the alcohol permit in the park to be allowed from the Saturday before Memorial Day through August 31st. And we did add to this fee, this section of fees, because the council's already approved it, the alcohol permit deposit fee and the honorary street name.
And then one that Scott had mentioned before, false alarm, fee, we're working on an ordinance that would allow for that, so that would be something that would have to be a separate motion sometime next year, or whenever it's, ready to be considered as an ordinance.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Katie, we're going to bring this schedule to the council
Okay.
with your approval. On the section on the EMS fees, I'm just gonna put a question mark for 2024. So council can discuss it in detail what they would like to do.
That sounds good. And we can adopt the schedule as a whole and then make changes throughout the year.
Oh,
That's what
absolutely,
we said.
yep. And then the next change, Katie, is just on page 9. We just added the language of the time period for the alcohol permits for the park. And what was added in this section was what had been approved during the year. It was the honorary street naming permit fee and the alcohol permit deposit fee.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna push this forward. We'll talk about it again.
Yay.
Tell me.
You wanna go to double ag real quick?
Of course.
Chief just wanted to share something that.
We do transports to and from the helipad, Air Methods Air Methods is a company that provides the helicopter service. So I sat down with a representative from them and just got today at like 3:30, an MOU, for being able to, they're basically gonna pay us $350 every time we do transport. We'll pick them up, bring them to the hospital, and take the patient back to the helipad. So, I forwarded to Greg, forwarded to Dave Merz, I just want to give you guys a heads up on this, that if Dave blesses it, it may be coming across your table, or it may not have to be. So,
Sounds good.
Cool.
and it should generate at least $10,000 more. Not huge numbers, but a little bit.
It all
Something.
adds up, all those small numbers add up, so.
Okay.
All right, just to give you the heads up, the agenda for December 5th is going to have over 40 motions on it. And so it's going to be a busy meeting.
Okay.
sick day.
Includes resolutions.
So it's like a 5
It's
seltzer.
gonna take one
That's what
time
I'm
to
saying.
read the consent.
Yeah, seriously. Can you imagine if I said like, if I had like Johnny the Camelback?
We better bring some, a bag of Ricolas for him.
Okay, it does not sound like we have any need for executive session, because I feel like that we would have brought that up. Additional business was AA. I think we can adjourn, folks, 7:36. Thank you, everyone.